Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has been told not to take the shareholding issue involving Azam Baki lightly. The call came in response to his remarks on the matter. Meanwhile, the MACC said that claims against the Commission in Bloomberg's latest report were malicious and defamatory. Stay tuned for this and more on KiniNews. Public Accounts Committee chairperson Mas Ermieyati Samsudin has expressed shock at Anwar's statement of Azam. She stressed that it is a serious issue and called on the government to respond.
Public Accounts Committee chairperson Mas Ermieyati Samsudin said that being a hardworking civil servant does not exempt anyone, not even MACC Chief Commissioner Azam Baki, from investigation. This was in response to Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's defense of Azam. She told reporters today that she was very surprised that the Prime Minister made such a statement. She said it is very dangerous because it involves institutional issues, misconduct, and double standards towards other civil servants. She added that for her, this is a very serious matter and insisted that the government address it. Mas Ermieyati also reiterated her calls for Azam to resign and to be investigated over the scandal. She called on authorities to be fair and not practice double standards where others can be investigated and taken action against, but not Azam. She said there are many doubtful matters that need to be answered thoroughly by Azam. Recently, it was reported that the company's Commission of Malaysia Records revealed that Azam had at some point held considerable shares in two public listed companies. The MACC chief said he had declared all his shareholdings to the Public Service Department and had disposed of his portfolio by July last year, though he did not mention a specific date.
Anwar had appeared unshaken by the shareholding scandal that has hit the top graphbuster. When quizzed on the matter, he said to listen to Azam's explanation.
Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has responded to those calling for MACC Chief Azam Baki to be sacked over the recent shareholding scandal. When quizzed by reporters last night, Anwar defended Azam and questioned why he should sack someone who is doing their job.
Baca penjelasan dia lah. Kena baca penjelasan dia. Satu penyakit dia, orang buat kerja, you maki buat apa? Wrong. Dengar penjelasan masing-masing.
Bloomberg and Malaysia Kini had separately reported that company's Commission of Malaysia Records revealed that Azam had at some point held considerable shares in two public listed companies. Azam had owned 17.7 million shares in Velocity Capital Partner Berhad and around 4.52 million shares in Awam Biru Technology Berhad. Between June 1st and July 31st last year, Velocity Capital Partner shares had traded as low as 0.06 ringgit per share and 0.075 ringgit per share. If Azam had disposed of his shares in the company during this period, the value of the shares could have been between 1.06 million and 1.327 million ringgit. As for Awam Biru Technology, their share prices during the June 1st and July 31st, 2025 period ranged from 0.275 ringgit per share to 0.305 ringgit. If Azam had disposed of his shares in the company during this period, the value of the shares could have been between 1.24 million ringgit and 1.378 million ringgit. The potential value of the MACC chief's shareholdings had triggered questions of whether he had violated a civil service rule that limits share purchases to not more than 5% of paid-up capital or 100,000 ringgit at current value. Azam had explained that he had declared all his shareholdings to the Public Service Department and had disposed of his portfolio by July last year, though he did not mention a specific date. He added that his shareholding did not involve paid-up capital but was instead acquired through purchases on the open market, and he did not hold any more shares in any company. From now on, you can also listen to KiniNews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Scan the QR code on the screen to follow us.
Bloomberg released another report this morning that contained allegations against the MACC. In response, the Commission said that the allegations were made with malicious intent to tarnish the Commission's reputation.
The MACC has stressed that it will not comment on allegations that are defamatory in nature, speculative, or that involve matters which are sub judice or subject to ongoing legal proceedings. It said this in response to Bloomberg's latest report, which claimed that its top leaders had colluded with businesspersons in schemes to muscle out rivals and stage corporate takeovers. In a statement, the MACC said that the report contained malicious and unfounded allegations intended to damage the good name and reputation of the Commission. It added that any suggestion or insinuation that MACC's investigation allegations are influenced by private interests is categorically rejected. The MACC stressed that all investigations undertaken by MACC are conducted strictly in accordance with the law, guided by evidence, and undertaken independently without fear or favor. It said that decisions to prosecute do not lie with the Commission but fall under the prosecutorial discretion of the Attorney General's chambers and the authority of the courts. The statement also stressed that allegations of misconduct should be resolved through the courts and established legal processes rather than tried in the court of public opinion. Earlier today, Bloomberg had claimed that a small group of business people had been employing a strategy in which they first expressed interest in a target company, then lodged complaints with the MACC against it. The MACC then launches an investigation against the company's founders and applies pressure that allows those who lodge the reports to gain access and control of their targets. Malaysia Kini is unable to independently verify the claims in the report and has also contacted MACC Chief Azam Baki for comments.
Meanwhile, the Public Service Department has announced that they will be reviewing outdated rules and guidelines.
The Public Service Department is reviewing rules and guidelines that have been in place for more than 20 years or are no longer relevant. This includes rules about outside work and shareholdings. In a statement today, the PSD said that it is based on current needs and situations, covering various aspects of changes that have occurred in the government, economy, business and technology. It added that this is to ensure that government policies remain relevant to current developments while maintaining a balance between elements of integrity and present-day realities, without compromising the principles of transparency and accountability. The PSD said that all entities are required to review regulatory instruments, including circulars, regulations, and guidelines under their respective jurisdictions every 3 years. This is in accordance with the Government Service Efficiency Commitment Act 2025, Act 867, which came into force on December 1st, 2025. While it did not mention any specific cases, the announcement came after MACC Chief Azam Baki was embroiled in a scandal over his shareholdings in two companies, as reported by Bloomberg and Malaysia Kini. The potential value of the MACC chief's shareholdings had raised questions about whether he had violated a civil service rule that limits share purchases to no more than 5% of paid-up capital or 100,000 ringgit at current value. Azam responded yesterday by saying that his shareholding did not involve paid-up capital but was instead acquired through purchases on the open market.
If you like the stories we produce, consider supporting us by subscribing to Malaysia Kini. Click the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen to subscribe.
Back to Anwar, last night, the Prime Minister warned the public against taking the law into their own hands over the temple issue. Although he did not mention any specific case, the warning came after an unauthorized temple in Rawang was demolished by vigilantes, leading to 4 arrests.
Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has warned the public against taking matters into their own hands regarding unauthorized temples. This came just 2 days after he said he had instructed local councils to clean up temples built without authorization. In his speech at a Chinese New Year dinner event last night, Anwar stressed that only the authorities can take action against unauthorized temples.
That this country must remain a peaceful country that observes laws. If you dislike the fact that there has been disregard by some quarters in terms of allowing indiscriminate temples being erected, we must follow rules and the law. The authorities has been told, the authorities have been directed to ensure that the excesses cannot be tolerated, but it has to be done by the authorities and not individuals using their whims and fancies.
Anwar also held firm on his stance against any houses of worship being built without approval. He stressed that all parties must comply with the laws and regulations regarding the construction of houses of worship. This is not the first time Anwar has warned against vigilantism, but his latest warning may have come a bit too late. Yesterday, one such unauthorized temple in Rawang was demolished by vigilantes, leading to 4 arrests.
Teresa Kok has warned Jamal Yunus of legal action over defamatory remarks. She was responding to Jamal's remarks following his auction yesterday.
DAP lawmaker Teresa Kok has warned Sungai Besar UMNO Division Chief Jamal Yunus to rein in his remarks or face fresh legal consequences. This came after he suggested that Kok use the money he was going to pay her for a court-ordered debt related to a defamation suit to open a pig farm at her home. In response, Kok said that turning compliance with a court decision into a vulgar insinuation was not only offensive but demonstrated a troubling disregard for basic decency and respect for the judicial process.
Izinkan saya menyatakan dengan jelas, sejak sekian lama saya telah menunjukkan kesabaran. Saya memilih untuk tidak membalas setiap provokasi atau kenyataan tidak bertanggungjawab. Kerana saya tidak percaya rakyat Malaysia mendapat manfaat daripada serangan politik yang berterusan atau cubaan mencetuskan kontroversi demi perhatian peribadi. Tumpuan saya sentiasa terarah kepada khidmat untuk rakyat, memperkukuh keharmonian serta memastikan wacana politik kekal bertanggungjawab, berhemah dan berlandaskan kebenaran. Namun, apa yang membimbangkan kini ialah perkara ini bukan lagi sekadar komen politik atau kritikan biasa. Apa yang amat dikesali ialah cara yang kasar dan tidak bermoral yang terus digunakan oleh Datuk Jamal Yunus, termasuk cubaan beliau untuk memperlekeh dan mempermainkan jumlah yang telah diperintahkan oleh mahkamah, menjadikan pematuhan terhadap keputusan mahkamah sebagai sindiran bukan sahaja menghina, malah mencerminkan sikap tidak menghormati asas kesopanan dan proses kehakiman.
She added that if these defamatory statements continue and if there is any further breach of the High Court injunction, then she will have no choice but to instruct her lawyers to take the necessary legal action. She said this includes contempt proceedings to uphold the authority of the court and to protect her reputation and integrity.
And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTv.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, X, YouTube, and Facebook for the latest news updates. I'm John. Thanks for watching.